Spiders, witches, frogs, ooh, it's Halloween. Hi, this is Penny Hallgren from QuiltBlockLibrary.com, and today I'm going to add another block to our Halloween quilt. This one is called Spider's Den, and I'm going to use some strip piecing techniques to make this go together really quickly. It's got strips and squares and a couple of triangles around the edges. So my strips are all cut and I'm ready to go. Why don't you come over to the sewing machine and join me. As you take a close-up look at this quilt block, you can see that there are sections here that have strips in them, and you could cut each one of these rectangles out. Or what I'm going to do instead is sew units together that have these alternating colors, and then I'm going to cut them off into 4.5-inch segments. The same kind of an idea is what I'm going to do to make these little 9 patches in the corner. I'm going to sew some strip units together with alternating white, brown, white, or in my case I'm using gray and black, so it's going to be gray, black, gray, and then black, gray, black. And then I'm going to cut them into units going across and then sew them together so that I have the 9 patch. So the first thing is to take my units here and lay them out, and then I'm just going to sew strips together so that I've got gray, black, and start with these units. The first thing I did was sew these 4 strips together, and then I cut them into sections, and my sections are 4.5 inches each because I'm making a block that's 12 inches square. So now what I'm going to do, I've got this extra section, and so I'm going to cut these off into 1.5-inch strips, and then I'm going to remove either the gray side or the black side so that I end up with little 9 patches like that. Now I have my little 3 stacks of strips here that I'm going to sew together, and I'm just going to sew them together, these right sides together, and then I'll attach the 3rd piece to the bottom. Now that I have these little 9 patches sewn together, I'm going to work on the corner units, and I'm going to sew these 2 long triangles together and then the 2 half square triangles. Now that all these little side units are sewn together, I'll go ahead and attach them. And what I'm going to do is sew these 2 together and then attach this to that unit, and then we'll be ready to sew the whole thing together. Now that we have the little corner units all in 2 pieces instead of 4, it's time to just flop these over and sew the corner units together. Once that's all done, then we'll be ready to sew the block together. Okay, now we've got all of our corner units done, and we just need to sew them together. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew these 2 columns together, so I'll just flop these over and chain stitch down. Now I've got these 2 columns sewn to each other, and I'm just going to add the 3rd column here. Now all we need to do is sew the rows together, so I'm going to start by sewing the top row to the center row, and then I'll finish, once these are done, I'll sew the bottom row on. And our final seam just on the bottom here. This Spider's Den quilt block is all finished and ready for a quilt. You can put it in a Halloween quilt or just any other quilt. It's pretty easy to make, but just be careful when you sew all those triangles together. This is Penny Hallgren from QuiltBlockLibrary.com. Thanks for joining me, and if you're not already there, head on over to QuiltBlockLibrary.com and get your free download of this Spider's Den pattern. Thanks again, and peaceful piecing.